Hi, this is Mike. I thought I would do a little video about my gooseberry bed. So why in Maryland would I want to grow gooseberries? It's a great question. I had never eaten gooseberries before. So the real reason, if I just pan over here, is this guy. This is a very large black walnut. It needs to be pruned and removed of vines. I haven't gotten to that yet. I had an arborist come and quote me like a cleanup. I think it was like $3 or $4 grand to have them, bring a cherry picker out and clean it all up. They said it might be a county champion. So our county will come out and measure them. If you do a preliminary measurement and it comes close to certain standards, they'll do an official measurement to see if it's one of the largest, if not the largest in the county or the state. And our arborist who looked at it said it could possibly be a county champion because it is gigantic and super old. So black walnuts give off a chemical. I've mentioned it several times in my other videos. They're called juglone. They're allelopathic, so that chemical kills a lot of other plants. But one of the plants that doesn't seem to care are gooseberries. And I love uncommon fruits and trying them and growing fruits that are very disease and pest resistant. So I thought I'd give it a go. So some of these have been in the ground for 2 years. Other have been in the ground for 1. So this will be the 3rd season for some or the 2nd for others. They all grow under the canopy of this black walnut. So they're all getting a nice hefty dose of juglone. They don't seem to care one way or the other. They also have a lot of shade. We do get afternoon sun around the side of this mulberry that I need to take down. The setting sun comes through there, and morning sun in that general direction. So they do get some sunlight, but it is like a dappled shade during most of the day. And one other issue we have is our house was built where a historic home used to be, that burned down, I think around 2000 maybe. Our house was built in 2001, so sometime around there. And over here is this gravel, at least, apparently it used to be the historic gravel driveway that came in from a different road, in a different direction. And whenever they built this fence here, they built it within the gravel driveway. They didn't set it back close to the house far enough, so further up on the hill, closer to where I'm filming, you got about 5-6 inches of dirt before you just hit gravel, crushed gravel. That's really packed in there. So this first gooseberry I have here is Captivator. It came to me along with a lot of these from a store, I think they're in Oregon or Washington, called Honeyberry USA. They gave me some great specimens. This one they gave me was very small. I want to say it was only 3 or 4 inches when I first got it. It's maybe about 2 feet now. All of these have been pruned when they were dormant, only this year. I didn't prune them last year. I should have, but things got crazy, for those who know the craziness we had to deal with last year in my family. And a lot of these got neglected. A lot of them got covered in vines and invasive grasses. So this is my first really early spring season where I'm taking good care of them. And a lot of them were actually in an area that I had too much sun. So you can kind of see along the fence line, there's an area down there where the grass is longer and kind of brownish. The gooseberry bed extended all the way down there. So that's another 4 to 5 sections of fence. It went all the way down there, and it got too much sun, and all the grasses overgrew on top of the gooseberries. Some of the gooseberries died, some of them didn't. So in part of my cleanup today, I transplanted a bunch of them. So I took a bunch that were over there and still alive but not doing so great. I trimmed them back and I moved them over here. So next to Captivator, which has been in this ground for 3 years, I just transplanted today this one here with that pink tag. That is Amish Red. So that one was just planted. For all of the gooseberries that I just planted today that I moved, They all got planted in with a granular mycorrhizae. I think it's called Mycos. There have been studies that say you get increased yields from that. It's essentially replenishing fungal and bacterial activity into the soil that might not be there, to form a symbiotic relationship with the roots, and help them exchange nutrients. So I'm giving it a go. I've used it all on my trees. Worst case, it does nothing. But there seem to be some studies that show some very positive effects. I think approximately 30% better yields on corn. Usually you use mycorrhizae on things like peas, beans, various legumes and nitrogen fixing plants, so they'll form root nodules. But this is just for anything. It's supposed to just, they're supposed to communicate chemically in the soil to exchange nutrients better. So I'm just going off on multiple rants, I apologize. So this next one is Black Velvet. Black Velvet has been grown very vigorously for me. It's been fairly upright. It's been real strong. Again, this is after I've trimmed it back, so it's probably about 4 feet across from tip to tip and maybe about 3 feet tall. It's leafed out pretty significantly already. I don't see many flowers on it yet, but it has definitely leafed out earlier than a lot of the other ones. With all of these, I used an action hoe, which is a stirrup hoe, and I scraped around. I kind of tried to get some of these, I don't know what kind of grass these clumps are, but they're formed through a bulb. I think some of them are Star of David, which is a flower. But anyway, I scraped that all kind of around them. I put in some 10-10-10 that I had sitting around. I raked that in, and then I watered in everything with a light fish emulsion, Neptune's Harvest brand 231. I have another one, like an Alaskan fish emulsion. That's 511, and I didn't want something that strong. And I watered everything in, including the new ones I planted today, in hopes of preventing transplant shock. So that is Black Velvet. Next over, this one I did transplant today, Black Velvet, that's its 3rd year. This one is on its 2nd year. This is Hinnomaki Red, which I'm really surprised came back. I've had the best success with gooseberries that are hybrids of American and European types. Hinnomaki Red is a pure European type. I've had some others that, just didn't do well, that were pure European. They didn't survive a year. They would get diseased, and they'd bite it pretty quickly. You just wouldn't thrive. The hybrid American and European cultivars seem to do the best. That's, I believe the Captivator is a hybrid. The Black Velvet is a hybrid. I wrote it all down at one point. I just don't have it in front of me. Which ones are hybrids and which ones were straight European types. The European types just get mildew. They get rust. They get all sorts of infections really badly. This one is definitely my strongest. Second best to Black Velvet over there. This one is Glendale, which surprisingly is named for Glendale, Maryland. Which is surprising because gooseberries are normally in more northern climates. You can't have them in certain states. They're illegal because they are an alternate host for white pine blister rust, which can affect the timber industry. So in certain northern states, they're illegal, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because they do grow wildly. They are, an American species. So, if you're not going to have commercially grown gooseberries, or all kind of ribes can be, which is the genus, which also includes currants. They can be hosts as well. So white pine blister rust has it's like a 2-phase life cycle. So it infects these guys first, and then it infects pines, and then they all die. And if you have interest in timber industries in certain northern states, then that's probably not the best. But yeah, I mean, they do grow wild, so these things exist. And there's other methods nowadays that they have for preventing infection. So it's kind of stupid that these laws from the 30s or 40s remain on the books. So yeah, Glendale's great. It's mostly leafed out. I mean, those leaves will get certainly a lot bigger. And it's got a lot of flowers on it too. They're still early forming. Let's see if I can zoom in on one over here. So, yep, that's what the flower looks like. So the flowers form typically on the undersides of the branches. Yeah, they'll form little gooseberries. Some of the gooseberries are green, some are like a reddish hue. They're about the size of small grapes. They have like a sweet tart flavor to them. Others are sweeter than some, and some are more tart. Birds like them. I didn't get any. I got like a few last year because the birds ate them. This one I planted today, and I don't remember what it is. Yeah, I totally forget. Actually, no. I remember what it is. It's Poor Man. I had to jog my memory. So I have a lot of Poor Man for some reason, which I'll get to a little later. So this is Poor Man. You'll see the rest of this bed I mulched. I do plan to mulch the top part, but I got tired, so I figured I'd make a video to kind of show what I did so far. So this is Poor Man. Poor Man's very popular in the United States. It's kind of sold everywhere that sells gooseberries. Yeah, it's incredibly hardy. I have a few of them. I really just have a few of them because I thought one died, but it didn't. It just came back really late in the season. They are not early like the Black Velvet and the Glendale. So I thought they were dead. So I got another one, so I had two. And the very first one I planted that I thought was dead was actually two plants that were shipped to me together. And I planted them together thinking that they were, too intertwined to move. But when I transplanted them recently, they came apart. So actually I have three Poor Mans here. So this next one actually is not a Poor Man. I believe it's called Tixia. It has not been a very strong performer for me. You can see it's pretty small. The Hinnomaki Red's probably the weakest of all of them, although it's leafing out now because, I think it's pure European genetics. It's just not, really as well adapted to our climate here, the humidity. But this one, Tixia, it does okay. A few fruits. You can see it's starting to leaf out. It doesn't look as strong. Something I have noticed on these, and I don't know, if it's, I'm just going to throw out a theory here, and I don't know if it's right, but please, correct me if you know, but it looks like all the new green growth that comes during the year in the winter turns this gray, and it just essentially looks dead. It looks super gray. Let's see if I can find some of these gray. Well, you can see them all over this guy. Let's zoom in, try to get my finger out of the shot there. So yeah, so central leader, and then all this new growth is like gray, so gray it looks dead. It does have buds, so it is alive, but yeah, it looks super dead. But it's not. Let's try to get it back to one-time zoom. Then in following years, let's see if I can zoom in here. It's almost like the gray outer bark comes off. You can kind of see here, like the gray part is being peeled back for like a darker brown that is more akin to the, I'll zoom out, like the solid kind of bigger stems here that have like a brownish bark with like white dashes. So I don't know if that's, how they should be growing. So who knows, but that's what I've seen at least. So if you're growing them and you see that new growth turn white over the winter, don't cut it all out. It's not dead. It looks dead, but it's not. So Tixia, okay, not great. It's probably the third largest one I have. The Captivator, the very first one I showed, the Captivator has shown a lot of growth over the years. This is my second Poor Man that I planted today. So all the Poor Mans I replanted. This was part of the double Poor Man that I split apart. And then the last one here, another poor man. So this one, this one and the other one, I'm really surprised they're alive. I thought they were certainly goners. I'll show you the rest of the bed and just kind of what it looks like. But, you know, I had a lot of vines. I had, is it like jewelberry? I forget what you call it, where they're like the blue and purple berries. That vine. I had wild grapes. I had all sorts of invasive, terrible vines growing all over the place in the bed. And they were covered. This one particularly was just covered in vines and invasive grasses. I could just see the tips of all of these branches. I couldn't see anything else. Yeah, I thought it was a goner. But sure enough, you know, it's very much alive. So I pulled it out and replanted it. All the buds are, you know, not burst yet, but they're there. I did find that, you know, poor man in general tends to leaf out later in the season. So yeah, just a quick, you know, overview of the rest of the bed and how kind of, I didn't really do much with this. I did remove, I thought I was going to plant stuff here, but there were so many vines and roots of vines. You can see I tried to dig one out, but I gave up on it because it's just so well dug in there. And just overgrown grass and kind of like a disaster. I mean, you know, this is my lawn and this is the bed, and they look pretty similar, except one looks really overgrown and just kind of a mess. You can see a bunch of the vines over on the pole there that I pulled out, and they're just kind of hanging. So I'll just, you know, at this post and further forward, I'm going to have my guys mow, my landscape company come by and just mow it down. Just like the rest of my lawn. I try not to mow too early in the season. You'll see there's tons of wildflowers. I was quizzing my daughters earlier on all the wildflowers that we have in the lawn. Yeah, that's a ton of, from this distance, it looks like it's not henbit. It looks like it's mostly purple dead nettle or red dead nettle, whatever you call it. Yeah, we do have henbit. We have hairy bittercress. You know, if I just kind of pan this camera on, you'll see all sorts of things. Mock strawberries, speedwell. Yeah, it really is actually quite pretty. What else? So there's a bunch of random like daffodils that are just kind of sprouting in random places. You know, dandelions, standard things. Wild violets are really pretty. So yeah, all sorts of just fun stuff. And yeah, so I still have to finish mulching. Up at the top there, you'll see I have a bunch of posts leaning up against, a whole bunch of T-posts. I think I said this in another video where I tried to get 6-foot T-posts and they didn't have any, so I got these kind of crummy little 4-foot ones, and they just bend like whoa. So I'm just going to use them here to kind of map out the layout here and wrap them in some mason line to keep my landscapers from accidentally running over my gooseberries, which they've actually done before by accident. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, the gooseberries are resistant to jug loan. There are other fruits and veg that are as well, that I'm going to try to experiment with. I have a black raspberry growing in a grow bag right now that I'm going to try and cut into sections and root them to multiply it, and then also do that near another black walnut, because black raspberry apparently is tolerant of jug loan, but any kind of, you know, raspberry, black raspberry or otherwise, is kind of difficult to keep under control. So we'll see. And yeah, so that's about it. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.